Hi there, it's Ashley, AMBA Chairperson. So I'm recording this short video today to give some extra context around the annual general meeting that's coming up in a few weeks' time at Convention. The notice of meeting will go out in a few days' time, but I just wanted to provide a little bit more detail around some of the processes and some of the content that you can expect to see in that meeting. Many of you might not know, but AMBA is actually registered as a company limited by guarantee. And that means that we are governed by two bodies in Australia. One of those is the Australian Securities and Investments Commission, ASIC, and the other one is the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission, the ACNC. So under both of those, there are a number of components that we need to abide by. With ASIC, it's fairly minimal, given that we are also registered with the ACNC. So the ASIC requirements are basically around the Corporations Act. So the latest version of that is 2001. So some of the key examples there that we need to provide are any changes in our name. So if we wanted to remove the word limited after our association name, which I believe has already been done, and also if we make any changes to our auditor or if they resign, that kind of thing. From the ACNC side, there are 5 main governance standards that we are regulated by. So the first of those is that we are operating under our defined purpose and a not-for-profit nature. The second one is that we maintain accountability to members. The third one is that we are complying with Australian law. The fourth one is that we have suitability of responsible persons, so that's the board of directors. And the fifth one is that we know the duties of those responsible persons and that they are clearly set out. So there are some major requirements under the Corporations Act that charities don't need to comply with if they are registered with the ACNC as well, which works in our favour. So 2 of the main ones around that are members' meetings, so the holding of members' meetings, and also reporting annually. So I'll cover off the reporting annually before I move on to the first one. So we don't need to submit a whole heap of complicated financial statements every year. All we need to provide is an annual information statement, which is much less complicated and more straightforward for us, which is good as a smaller charity. So going back to the first requirement, the members' meetings. So while we're not required to hold the members' meetings, what is required is still that we abide by the second governance standard, which is accountability to members. And that's super important for AMBA. So the accountability to members allows AMBA members, which are the clubs, to have total transparency with the elected board of directors. And at the end of the day, AMBA runs for its members. So AMBA runs for the clubs, and it's important that we allow question and answers on a regular basis, so you can all understand what it is that the board has planned for AMBA, and then we can have an open and honest type relationship. So in terms of the AGM itself, the notice of meeting will go out in a couple of days, as I said. In terms of the Corporations Act, they recommend 21 days notice. Our constitution actually specifies 28 days notice. So that date for us is the 29th of September, but we did commit to it going out on the 27th. So we will have it out by the 27th. There are a couple of main reasons for giving that type of notice for a meeting. The first one is that when you have resolutions that will be proposed in a meeting, it's appropriate to give your members enough time to be able to consider what those resolutions are and decide the way that they will vote. So in AMBA's case, it's the board of directors providing you, the clubs, with enough notice on any resolutions, whether ordinary or special, and I'll go through that in a second, providing you with enough notice on those proposed resolutions so you can understand what they're about and decide which way you will vote. So there are 2 types of resolutions. There's ordinary resolutions and special resolutions. So ordinary resolutions they're quite simple things, I guess. They're electing the board of directors, they are appointing our auditor, and they're accepting the annual reports at a meeting such as the AGM. So to pass an ordinary resolution, we just need a simple majority of members present at the meeting. So we still need to meet our quorum, and then it's a simple majority. On the flip side, you've got special resolutions. So those tend to be things that affect what the company needs. They're a little bit more complicated, I guess. So in order to pass those, we need the quorum, of course, and then also a minimum of 75% pass. So 75% of members present must vote for that resolution in order for it to pass. So things like that are around changing our name or changing our constitution. Those types of things. So in terms of this current AGM, I would hope that you guys know by now that the current board of directors is super excited about our organisation. We are really planning for the long term. We want to see some really positive change in our organisation, and we want to see some really positive impact as a result of the activities that AMBA is undertaking. So in order to make sure that happens, we have to ask ourselves questions like, well, how can we enable that change? And what do we need to do internally in our organisation to make that possible? So that's why we've joined associations like the Associations Forum as a member, so we can learn best practices from them around what other not-for-profits are doing, what structures are working, what's working well for them in a whole spectrum of topics. There's a lot that we can learn there. It's why I applied to the Growth Project, which is that super exciting leadership development program that goes for 12 months. So I'm only one session in. I have the second session the week before convention. So I'm hoping to report back a little bit then. And I've also joined our community directors, which is similar to the Australian Institute of Company Directors. So I can get access to some resources on how to be a better director, and then I can pass those on to the rest of the board. So we are committed as your elected board of directors to do the best job that we can in the best interests of AMBA to support our members, who are you, our clubs. So we also want to be in a position where we're not driven by our documentation, that we're not restricted by our governing documentation. Having a constitution is a legal requirement. Having bylaws is not necessarily a legal requirement, but having some updated policies and procedures to support the way that we want our organisation to run is really important, because it doesn't need to be complicated. So in terms of the special resolutions that we're going to be looking at for this year, it primarily revolves around constitutional change. So we've been thinking about it only very recently, just in terms of what do we need to do with our constitution to bring it up to date, to streamline it, to align it with the rest of our industry, with the rest of the not-for-profit space, and how do we do that? So there is a document called a model constitution, which is essentially a template constitution that sets all the requirements out in non-jargon language. So it's jargon-free, it's plain English, and we can obviously customise that specific to our organisation. But there are a number of things that are also in our bylaws that should be in the constitution, and we're also looking to remove some inconsistencies as well. So there are things that are referred to in the constitution that are actually in the bylaws, and vice versa. So our own documentation does contradict itself a little bit. So we're just looking to tidy it all up, and make it nice and neat, and to set us up for the future. So in terms of the way that we will run the AGM as well, For those of you who have been to a convention before where there have been motions and resolutions proposed, you will be familiar with a process called Renton's, which is quite complicated, and it goes into the processes that we have followed in the past in terms of how a motion is put to the meeting, how the motion is voted on. It allows motions to be amended and then voted on again in the meeting. And it's actually quite an outdated process. So we've done a little bit of research this year in line with the rest of our digging around, and we've determined that we're really going to bring it back to basics in terms of how other companies with the same structure as us, so companies limited by guarantee, how those organisations are allowing votes to happen on ordinary resolutions and special resolutions. So it's going to be a very simple process. So we're just going to be allowing a simple for or against or abstaining from the motion. There'll be no amendments allowed on any of the motions or resolutions. That's part of the reason why we will allow the 28 days, or why we've determined that we will give 28 days for the notice of those, because it gives you as a club time to review the resolutions that have been proposed by us and any of the member clubs that are putting forward motions or submissions. Gives you time to review those, to understand them, to see what their impact will be, and to make a really informed decision about whether you will vote for, against, or abstain from your vote on those. And that's the other reason why we will also be running our webinar on the 9th of October, because that is one of the best opportunities for the board to explain further our intent on our proposed special resolutions for the constitutional changes, and to provide full transparency on that, and to allow your club to ask us questions, and for us just to engage really openly and honestly about what we're proposing and what that means. So I just wanted to finish off by saying that the board is an elected body of AMBA, and we're elected by you. So we're elected by our members, and we are honoured and privileged to be in the position that we are in. We're so excited about the opportunities for AMBA, and to be honest, we want to be spending a lot less time trying to interpret our own governing documentation, and just getting to a position where our governing documentation supports what we're trying to do and just allows us to move forward and focus on having a really solid social impact, because that's what we're here for. So I hope that's helped explain a little bit about what's coming in the next few days. Please, if you haven't already, register for our webinar. It's coming up on Tuesday, the 9th of October. It's 8:30 p.m. daylight time, and you do need to register beforehand. So really excited about what's coming. Please reach out if you have any questions or queries. I'm here at any time, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye.